are present. Uh, I am a board member, Farid Esak, or Professor Farid Esak. I'm a board member of Africa for Palestine, the initiating organization of this International Week for Palestine. Yeah, so here we are, a day or two after the mass graves were uncovered in Gaza, containing nearly 300 bodies. And the fascinating and even appalling press coverage that there is currently. For example, much of the international press is focused on 3 universities' protest actions inside the United States. And that gets the headlines in international media. Not a word or a whimper about the mass graves found in Gaza. And so in some ways that is a reflection of the challenges that we face, but also on the importance of an initiative such as this. The International Week for Palestine, as I indicated, it's an initiative of Africa for Palestine, but with activities taking place in a number of different countries in different parts of the world, including Kenya, the United States, China, Japan, the Netherlands, quite a large number actually. For now, given the fact that we're having countrywide events, so we're located in South Africa, and so this is where we are, and this is what this press briefing is about. And of course, uppermost in the minds of many of our people, it is the forthcoming elections. And in the same way that this international solidarity movement expresses itself, for now, inside South Africa, it is commendable that many political parties, most of whom are present here today, have also included the genocide in Palestine and the need to end the siege in general beyond the genocide. It's really commendable and heartwarming that many South African political parties have. In fact, I chatted to the Good spokesperson before the meeting starts. Like Good, they have included this challenge, this a statement and affirmation of international solidarity with the Palestinians inside their election manifestos. So we're unashamed about this, that whether you regard it as party politicking or electioneering, we're unashamed that there's no ways that any South African with a memory of our own country's history and living under or dying because of apartheid, there's no ways that we can possibly support any political party that denies our history. Entities, racial classes, economic classes that were indifferent to us and to liberation figures like Mandela, and now they want to embrace Mandela as if he was everybody's cuddly uncle or some Father Christmas. Mandela is now everybody's person. So there is no ways that we can not only not support, but we are obliged to actively oppose those political parties. You know, I mentioned the thing about living under and dying under apartheid. When I was still at primary school, there was a song called the Vlaglied, the song of the flag. No, it was the apartheid anthem that says, you know, ons sal lewe, ons sal sterwe. Ons sal lewe, ons sal sterwe. Ons vir jou, South Africa. We will live and we will die. We will live and we will die all for you, South Africa. And even at primary school, we changed it. Ons sal bewe. We will tremble. And we didn't say ons vir jou, we for you. We said ons dear we all because of you, South Africa. So the narrative of the oppressed was an entirely different narrative than the narrative of the oppressors. And painfully, parties in South Africa still have the indecency to, some at least, or a minority, have the indecency to still invoke that narrative of separation, of white supremacy in this day and age. One last little comment, during the apartheid era, even many of us from the black communities at weddings, if you had a white boss, your white boss's family would occupy a privileged table in front. But of course, we've shed that. And the painful thing is, a number of political parties, primarily the major opposition in parliament, they still have that logic. Why don't you give us a special table in front at the wedding? We'll do with you what we want to do with you after the wedding and treat you the same as we treat you all the time in the factories and in the working space. So, comrades and friends, without further ado, let me, and we're running late already, let me introduce Zukiswa Wanner. That's at least how we say the word in German, Zukiswa Wanner. Zukiswa is a prominent South African author, has received and even more been shortlisted for a number of international journalist and publication, or book publication, or novels award. More importantly, Zukiswa is or has been the recipient of the Goethe Medal, that's in theory one awarded by the Goethe Institute, but in reality is an award from the German government. And Zukiswa has returned her medal to the German government in disgust at its own collaboration with the apartheid regime in Israel and its ongoing military support for it, and thereby complicit in the crimes of genocide against the Palestinian people. So, Zukiswa, it is over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming through. Members of the press, thank you for making here. The board, and you who are campaigning to be our servants for the next few years. Thank you very much for coming through to endorse Wake for Palestine, which shall be from the 1st of May up until the 7th. In 2008, South African writer Nadine Gordimer was invited to the apartheid state of Israel for International Writers' Week, Writers' Festival. They were trying to make it this thing where they showed that Israel has support, as they keep doing every time. And she went there against objection of many an artist, many a writer, many a civil society activist, as they felt that this was endorsing the apartheid state. When she got there, she had a street named after her. She was interviewed by the very right-wing rag in Israel called Jerusalem Post. And it was from this interview where she said, and I think she was really shaken because she also traveled into the occupied West Bank. There's a similarity, alas, in the way Palestinians are being treated in the occupied territories, the brutal methods, the humiliation of people, moving people out of their homes, keeping them on one side of the wall while their sustenance, their crops and grain, are on the other. It is indeed comparable to what happened in South Africa. In May 2023, South African writer, Zuki Savannah, that's me, was in Palestine. And it is then where she said, in a world where Palestinians should be a wound on the conscience of every human being with an ounce of humanity, we shut our eyes and cover our ears. Except this is not what has been happening lately. Since October 7, we have seen the world galvanized and speak up very strongly about what's happening. Today, it's 201 days since the genocide towards the Palestinians started in Gaza. But even as we are focusing on Gaza, there are things that are happening in in the occupied West Bank. There are displacements, there are killings, there are kidnappings, because this is what really they are, where people can go in jail. Children as young as 10 are put in prison for so much as throwing a stone at a truck of AOF. In fact, Professor Essek was telling me in a rather tragic story yesterday of a woman whose house was broken by the Israeli occupying forces, bulldozed. And she had a child, and she went to one of the soldiers and said, "There, take the child. What am I going to do? Where's this child going to sleep?" And this woman was then charged for terrorism and attacking the policeman and the soldier, and the weapon was the child, according to them. So that's how tragic this is. Without further ado, though, and so let's keep talking about Palestine, but importantly, we have had many people come on board, people who generally had not known the issue, but now there is no way that we don't know what's happening. Everybody has social media against all odds, and we know who's arming, and we have provisionally won a case at the ICJ, which is still continuing as a country, which is something very admirable as we are as South Africans. So for those South Africans who are perhaps not quite there, it becomes very doubtful whether they were okay with the history that we had prior, because there is no way that we can look at what happened during that time, and anybody who remembers history and not be shaken. And I think we shouldn't compare struggles, but I actually really believe that what is happening in Palestine is even worse than what we experience, because there is this anxiety, this need to actually destroy all Palestinians, because now they're coming to our neighboring countries, other African countries, like I know Malawi, they try to get some workers there. India, they try to get some workers there to go and work. So they don't need Palestinians anymore. So they're okay with them dying. With us, I think the apartheid state needed Black people to be working in their factories and in their fields and so forth and so on. So it was beneficial for us to survive. Anyway, without further ado, this campaign has been endorsed by over 100 organizations. There shall be over 100 events expected during the Week for Palestine, which is May 1, Workers' Day, up until the 7th. As Professor Farid Isaac mentioned, the theme for South Africa is solidarity through elections. We will, these are some of the parties that have endorsed the campaign and that they have pledged to support if now they've been supporting Palestine, and after the elections, if they get into power, they all plan to continue fighting for Palestine until Palestine is truly, truly free. So, so there'll be, yeah. So that's our particular theme. Our particular theme in South Africa, but all the other organizations across the world have different themes. We've got people from Senegal. We've got, I just got word right now that we also have Kenya on board. We've got the Netherlands, we've got the people of Hawaii, we've got governed by the settler state that is the United States. We've got the people in Netherlands and so many other countries. So yeah, this is truly a global initiative, and we're hoping to get more before the 7th. Now, the week's outline really for us, there is that solidarity, and we also have the pledge, which shall be read through. It's over there. And we will ask the political parties to sign that. And those who are not here, who perhaps were on the wrong side of history or have decided that they want to change their minds and give us a convincing reason, we also welcome them to join and come on board and sign this pledge. And there'll be so part of the event, there'll be a comedy show at 5 campuses across the country, headlined by the renowned Mashabela Galane. There will be over 35 international events in various countries, including Zambia, Senegal, Zimbabwe, Netherlands, France, and the USA. The week aims to bring activists in South Africa and world together in dedicating and coordinating a week of action. So it will be very important as we go through to also note that whatever happens, the most important thing is people, the most important thing right now is the Palestinian people, and we must keep our focus on that. We must keep our focus on the Palestinians being free. So let's try to avoid doing the noise and, as far as international relations is concerned, because of our particular history, this is very important to us. And now I am going to call upon the Muslim Judicial Judicial Council to come and say a word in solidarity. I will need to give all of you like maybe two minutes. I will cut you off if I have to because we were late and we don't want to hold back the members of the press. We know they are busy with campaigns and everything. So Muslim Judicial Council, please.
Sorry. Could you interrupt him and say something? Around the world, we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and we show that support. Wait, sorry, can somebody interrupt the speaker until you get the sound sorted out?
Sorry, sir. We just need the sound to be okay so that we hear you properly.
Sorry. What are you saying? Okay. All right. Sheikh, let's start with one of the speakers while we're trying to sort out the sound from a distance. We apologize to you and to others, especially the people who are things recording it live. Right.
Okay. Could we kindly have the representative for Al Jamaa come and offer?
We are very excited to sign the pledge for the week for Palestine starting on May Day. And between now and May Day, we also have Freedom Day. So it is well placed. We are very excited to try and hear what everyone has to say all over the world with regard to the genocide that's taking in Palestine. As a political party in the South African Parliament, quite a number of political parties have raised concerns about Palestine. My first maiden speech in Parliament 5 years ago was to call for South Africa to arm the resistance in Palestine, because it was the Benghazi office in Libya, Palestinian Benghazi office in Libya, that organized the first weapons from Libya to Angola to South Africa. And I felt it was only right that South Africa should reciprocate and send weapons to deter what we now see is happening in Palestine. We have welcomed the Hamas delegation to Parliament, and it was an honor for them to meet other resistance movements in South Africa. Recently, we have been speaking to many countries to provide the resistance in Palestine with weapons to deter what is happening, because we feel that every child has every right, and so the children of Gaza, and that deterrent weapons should be rushed to the resistance. And we've seen with the latest Iranian response to Israel that it is possible, if a tank enters Rafah, that tank can be identified and eliminated. And Al-Jamaa calls on those who support the Palestinian cause to use such deterrent methods. We wish you well for the week, the International Week for Palestine.
Thank you, sir. And I wasn't aware that we'd start with the political parties, so excuse me, but I'm just going to read for you what the pledge reads so that you become aware what they are pledging to. Cognizant of history and understanding the common precepts that any of us is because others are. Understanding that one of the founding principles of the United Nations after the Second World War and the horror of the Holocaust was never again, and believing that never again should be for anyone. We pledge solidarity with the people of Palestine and promise to continue holding the apartheid state of Israel accountable for their continued crimes of displacement, hostage-taking, and killing of the people of Palestine. In this, we are led by the four core issues of Palestinian consensus, the Tower Bits. 1, the right to resist. 2, the right to self-determination, statehood. 3, Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. And 4, the right of Palestinian refugees to return in accordance with UN General Assembly 194. We recall and repeat the words of South Africa's first democratic president, Nelson Mandela, that none of us are free until Palestine is free. Next, I think we have ATM.
The party representatives can also name themselves or introduce themselves. Please. Thank you.
My name is Babalo Magwenjo, the chairperson of ATM in the Johannesburg region. As the African Transformation Movement, we are here to pledge our solidarity with the people of Palestine. We strongly oppose the apartheid policies of Israel and the genocidal acts committed against the Palestinian people. It is our duty to amplify the message that the ongoing genocide must not continue under our watch. The fundamental rights to live and to own land in their homeland have been continuously violated, resulting in severe suffering and the loss of countless lives, including men, women, and children. Such normality in the face of atrocity is unacceptable. As the chairperson of the African Transformation Movement in Johannesburg, and also as the MMC of Community Development in the city of Johannesburg, I speak today from a place of deep commitment. Under the government of local unity, we have pledged to continue supporting symbolic acts of solidarity, such as the renaming of Sentin Drive to Laila Khalid Drive, in honor of a resilient and iconic figure of our time. Just as we succeeded with the renaming of Winnie Mandela Drive, we are determined to do the same for Laila Khalid Drive. It is a profound symbol of justice that the newly named Winnie Mandela Drive intersects with the future Laila Khalid Drive, marking a crossing of paths between the two powerful figures who relentlessly fought against injustice. They will always be profoundly and fondly remembered by the people of South Africa and around the world. We will persist in our support for the Palestinian people, honoring the solidarity they showed us during our struggle against apartheid in South Africa. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. I thank you.
Thank you. Both party, please.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Matthew Cook, the National Chairperson of Good. I would like to thank Professor Eso and the rest of your team for Africa for Palestine for your continued fight for the Palestinian people and for including us. For the past 5 years since Good was founded, we have become friends, we have supported you, and we have shown our solidarity for the Palestinian people. We condemn the violence against the civilians by the State of Israel and Hamas, but we are very clear on the rights of Palestinians to struggle against Israeli apartheid because as South Africans, we recognize their suffering. We remember the injustices of forced removals, the curtailment of people's free movement, and the way that the South African apartheid government corroded our own dignity as a people. We must say clearly that this is not a political, a race, or a religious matter. This is a human rights matter, and all political parties, all citizens of South Africa, regardless of your race or your religion, have a duty and a responsibility to stand up for the rights of the people of Palestine. Good is of the view that the root cause of this conflict is the illegal occupation of the Palestinian territory by Israel and the denial by Israel of the rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination, statehood, and sovereignty. We are revolted by the injustice of the genocide against the people of Gaza and by the fact that the unfair and imbalanced world power relations continue to permit it. We demand an immediate ceasefire and call upon the UN to implement its own resolutions on the establishment of an independent state of Palestine alongside an independent state of Israel. We further commend the South African government for the principle of taking Israel to the International Court of Justice. We urge all South Africans and all people across the world to stand together with the people of Palestine and join in the Week for Palestine from May 1st to May 7th. We thank you.
I call upon PMC.
Greetings to everyone in the house. I also greet my fellow colleagues there with the universal greetings of peace. My name is Lloyd Phillips. I'm a representative of the People's Movement for Change, led by Marius Fransman. So my party president, Marius Fransman, once made a speech in July of 2012 at the Cape Town College in Etlong, where he quoted Madiba, where he quoted Tata Nelson Mandela saying that the Palestinian issue might be the biggest moral issue that the world has ever had to face. And taking from that, one can concur that if you were to unpack this particular moral issue and downscale it, given that we come from a society that moves with the spirit of Ubuntu, that although I've got my problems in my house, when the house next door is on fire, I need to jump in and assist. Now you will get those people asking, what is South Africa doing at the ICJ when they've got so much problems? Yes, we know we've got problems. We know that there are issues. There's still the Koi and the San issue with regards to land restitution. But when we see the atrocities committed on oppressed people of Palestine by the apartheid state of Israel, we cannot hold back and do nothing. So I would like to applaud our government for taking the initiative and standing up for the rights of oppressed people of Palestine. What we have also seen is that there is a perpetuation by the world forces when it comes to this thing of hatred and oppression. This morning, there was an announcement that the US Senate has approved something like 97 billion in aid of Israel and the others, obviously the Ukraine and Thailand, so that it must not look too direct. But it was made that the Senate had approved 97 billion for aid. That is very concerning, and it is a blatant slap in the face of the oppressed, and also to countries that value basic human rights and the right to exist. My president, Marius Fransman, also went on to quote the late, great Dullah Omar, where he states that our opposition is not because the occupying power is Jewish, but because it denies the oppressed people of Palestine their right to self-determination. Hence, we as the People's Movement for Change, we stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine, because also as Christians, we believe that the God that we serve stands with the oppressed. In closing, we would like to call for solidarity through elections. This is where you, the voters, will be able to show or demonstrate whether we are standing in solidarity with the people of Palestine, the oppressed people of Palestine, or whether we endorse the hatred and oppression that is shown by the apartheid state of Israel. That is a big task, and it is one that needs to be taken seriously by every voter. Nelson Mandela also once said, it is easier to love than to hate because love comes more naturally. Why are we creating this hatred in the world? Why are we continuing on this pathway of destruction? It needs to stop, and the only way it can stop is if we stand in solidarity and ensure that even beyond the rivers and the seas of Palestine, that no one should be oppressed in any way, shape, or form. In closing, I would just like to say that there is a scripture in the Bible, Deuteronomy. I'm not sure which one it is, but in the book of Deuteronomy, late Deuteronomy, where Joshua puts it to the people of Israel. Today, I put life and death, blessings and curses, but I urge you to choose life. And today, I would like to urge the electorate, as we stand in solidarity through these elections, I would like to urge the electorate to prove, to show, to demonstrate that we stand with the people, the oppressed people of Palestine, by making the right decision at the ballot. I thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. South Africa Communist Party.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Reneva Fourie, and I'm a Central Committee and Politburo member of the South African Communist Party. Oh, up or louder? Yes, so when we received our invitation, we were told that we have 3 to 5 minutes, and I took the liberty of using all 5 minutes. So I asked the chair, as the only woman, to please indulge me. I also want to thank Professor Farid Isaac and the Palestine for Africa team for organizing this important occasion. And I want to thank all of the media for being with us here today, given your heavy schedules. The South African Communist Party strongly condemns the ongoing apartheid Israeli regime's genocide on the Palestinian people, and we reiterate our message of solidarity with the Palestinians. The Week for Palestine serves to emphasize the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. This right is daily being destroyed by the Israeli settler regime, with a full economic, political, and military support from the imperialist United States and its allies, thereby exposing a crisis of humanity and the collapse of a rules-based international world order. While many across the world indeed are condemning the occupation and the support that Israel receives from the West, it is still an indictment on us as humanity. The atrocities committed by Israel against the people of Palestine were well documented and communicated long before 7 October. Yet it was ignored by the mainstream media and the Western governments. However, the killing of the Israeli civilians received extensive coverage and condemnation, with the ongoing retaliatory killings of over 300% more Palestinian civilians than Israelis being dismissed as collateral damage. It is equally disturbing to witness the capture of Israeli citizens receiving more outrage and attention than the ongoing administrative detention of thousands of Palestinian citizens, including hundreds of children, as Ukiswa had indicated earlier. We all know the devastating figures of people who have been killed, wounded, buried under rubble, and displaced by the Zionist onslaught in Gaza, as well as the atrocities in the West Bank and the rest of West Asia. It is unconscionable that these atrocities are occurring as we watch in real time. Instead of feeling empathy, instead of having compassion, instead of being outraged, there are still those, including South Africans, who justify and defend this brutal genocide. They celebrate the collective punishment of the Palestinian nation, the blowing up of hospitals, and the burning alive of infants. This cold presents a crisis of humanity. It begs the question, why are the lives of Palestinians valued less? The full consequences of our collective failure to condemn or halt the Israeli violence will haunt us for decades, if not centuries to come. Our failure to stop this madness also demonstrates that the rules-based international order has collapsed. Israel and its Western imperialist backers repeatedly violate international law and fundamental human rights. The ruling of the International Court of Justice implied a ceasefire. The UN Security Council voted for a ceasefire. However, the apartheid Israeli regime disregards these international agreements and rulings without facing any consequences. Israel regularly violates Syrian airspace and targets civilian infrastructure. They even bombed Aleppo, Damascus, and Latakia airport to stop the delivery of humanitarian aid following the devastating earthquake last year. However, there has been very little international condemnation of these actions. On the other hand, when Iran responded to Israel's bombing of its consular office in Syria and the murder of 16 people, there was a strong adverse reaction from the international community. Why the double standards? If any other country had acted in the same way as Israel, they would be facing a barrage of sanctions. Additionally, if any other leader had to behave like Netanyahu, the ICC would long have issued a warrant of arrest. The West preaches human rights, democracy, and the adherence to international law. However, their practice consciously undermines these tenets. Acknowledging and addressing these double standards is crucial to promoting justice and equality in our world. The upcoming 29 May elections hold significant implications, including beyond our national borders. The USA and its allies are closely watching, hoping that the 29 May electoral outcomes will result in a government that will promote a neoliberal agenda domestically and align itself with them at a global level. That is why parties like the DA and the IFP were invited to the Brentus Foundation International Conference in Poland last year, where the regime change was discussed. And that is why the core of the Moonshot Pact parties are openly advocating for a free market economy, opposing pro-poor programs, and they are defending the apartheid Israeli regime. Our governing alliance has aligned itself with those who support peaceful conflict resolution, multipolarity, fair implementation of international law, and policies prioritizing the poor. As the SSCP, we want to emphasize that there is a danger that the electoral outcomes might result in an accelerated shift towards neoliberalism and anti the Palestinians. Moreover, Abstaining from voting or voting for the opposition could result in a victory for the West and its proxy Israel. The SSCP calls on our people to vote wisely and in a manner that will deepen international solidarity with the people of Palestine, that will promote a just and peaceful world order, and will continue to isolate apartheid Israel economically, politically, culturally, and otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I call upon AM4C. Sir, please come through.
Well, greetings to everybody. And once again, thank you, Program Director. Thank you, Africa for Palestine. And thank you for the invitation that has been extended to AM4C to be part and parcel of this initiative. Now, we all knew that these elections and Palestine will be a major issue in the build-up to the elections, as has been the case right across the entire world where elections are being held. We see it in the United States of America, we see it in Britain, and Palestine will continue remaining an issue. And at AM4C and also through our leadership, Ahmed Mansour Sheikh Imam, who has been extremely vocal as a seasoned politician in Parliament over the years with regards to Palestine, with regards to allowing Palestinians into this country visa-free, where for many, many years Israeli citizens were allowed in South Africa without a visa. He was at the forefront of this campaign, where he called on the downgrading of the Israeli embassy in South Africa. And all of this put together tells us that as politicians, as political parties, we have a huge responsibility. We have a responsibility on humanitarian grounds, but also coming from an ugly history of apartheid in South Africa. We know exactly what it feels to be humiliated. We know what it feels like when people suffer degradation, when people suffer as a result of being part and parcel of a particular race. And in the build-up to the elections, to the electorate, we call on the electorate, we appeal on the electorate, that as a matter of foreign policy, and South Africa having taken the lead at the ICJ, South Africa being under the radar, South Africa being in the spotlight, we need to continue. And we need to not only continue in our solidarity in words, but it needs to be translated into deed, it needs to be translated into action on all levels, on a social level, on an economic level, on a socio-economic level, on a political level. And this is what AM4C is all about. This is our policy. It is a policy that is built on fairness, a policy that is built on morality, a policy that is built on justice. And we will not rest. We will continue. We will continue in our support. We will also continue putting pressure, not only locally, but pressure to our neighbors. It is said that our immediate neighbors, we've seen protests, we've seen actions being banned with our immediate neighbors and with Africa for Palestine. Our appeal to you is to take the struggle into Africa. You already have taken it to a number of countries, but also to many other countries. We have the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa. We need to take the Palestinian struggle at the Pan-African Parliament. We need to take it to the AU. We need to take it to the global institutions. And we've heard it over and over again. We've heard veto after veto. The United States of America, the powers that be, using their veto powers, even to the extent of not even admitting Palestine as a state. Yet, in our country, we talk about a two-state solution. A two-state solution which has been thrown out of the window, which is a concept which is dead. And it is said that within political circles, within political parties, we still recognize the fact that there is a remote possibility of a two-state solution. And we know it is not going to happen. Have we accepted any two-state solution in this country? Why do we want to accept a two-state solution for the people of Palestine? So as the AM4C, once again, we pledge our commitment to the cause. We pledge our commitment to this week. We pledge our commitment to continue fighting for the struggle, for the liberation of the people of Palestine. I thank you.
And we have the economic freedom fighters joining for a method of solidarity from via Zoom.
and good afternoon. And shukran for the invitation. And I think this is a wonderful initiative. In our declaration on the 26th of July 2013, at our first National Assembly, the EFF called on the apartheid state of Israel to end its racist occupation of Palestinian land and joined in the call of progressive governments for the international solution of the Israeli state through boycotts, divestment, and sanctions until the end of occupation. As an internationalist movement, the EFF feels it is our duty to be in solidarity with nations and people who share a common history and a common struggle against the forces of imperialism. The ties between the people of Africa and Palestine are those of brutal experience of settler colonialism, land dispossession, and violence against the fabric of Palestinian society. It is for this reason that we identify with the struggle of Palestinians and locate the Israeli regime, which arrests Palestinians without movement with its people for decades. Today, we once again affirm the right of Palestinians to resist the illegal occupation of the land by the Zionist state of Israel. In 1977, the United Nations passed a resolution, Resolution 3240 BEE, inaugurated the National Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people in recognition of the injustice and gross human rights violations that were perpetrated against Palestine. This comes after apartheid South Africa was one of the countries that voted in favor of partitioning of Palestine in order to establish the state of Israel in 1963. Israel defended South Africa's apartheid policies at the United Nations.
Apologize for this. All right, Ali, you know that there's no ways that you can possibly mute the EFF. Just some connection problems.
Which was sponsored by the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters. The most concrete step towards solidarity is to implement a resolution that would expel the Israeli ambassador from South Africa. We can never be truly free should the people of Palestine remain under the firm thumb of entitled and violent imperialists so it's fit to take the land and to oppress them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nazir. We are going to have the Muslim Judicial Council. Hopefully we can hear them better now.
Good morning, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. Greetings from Cape Town on behalf of the Muslim Judicial Council, its office bearers presidency, its executive council, and its general membership. We hereby support and it has been made by the different faith, and we ourselves in the structures of the Muslim Judicial Council are supporting the idea of using our vote and the election in solidarity with the oppressed in Palestine, in showing our support for those who are fighting for the Palestinians, and also to show our disgust against those who has not condemned, but rather also supported the genocidal attacks against the people of Gaza, against the people of Palestine. We as the Muslim Judicial Council hereby has noted against the apartheid regime, as called it as a heresy. And again, we reiterate the point that the Israeli apartheid regime, in the same way as we have condemned the apartheid regime of South Africa previously, we condemn the Israeli apartheid regime in the same vehement utterances of disgust at the policies which are hurting humanity and destroying the very fabric of the society in Palestine and in Gaza. We have seen the demolishment and the utter destruction of the infrastructure there. We take this opportunity also to support the week from the May the 1st until May the 7th with the Africa for Palestine campaign, and we ourselves will show our presence at the May Day rally scheduled in Athlone. And we want to say and reiterate the point that we as the civil society, we as the supporters of truth and justice, we need to be able to become more effective in how we are dealing with the matters regarding Palestine. And we would like to conclude and say that the struggle will continue until Palestine is free, until the genocide ceases, and until there is one free, democratic Palestine for all. And we shall never ever stop the struggle, and we shall vote in favor of the Palestinians and those that support Palestine. Thank you very much.
Comrades, while we, colleagues, careful who I speak to. Thank you very much to the President of the Muslim Judicial Council. While Zukiswa is organizing the signatories on this side, if I can just request the people who are signing to please stand on the right-hand side so that the media catches a good view of them. Our next political party representative is Comrade Obed Bapela from the African National Congress. Other than being in the leadership of the party, he is also a senior member of the ANC subcommittee on international relations and cooperation. Right. Thank you very much for joining us, Comrade Bapela.
Thank you very much, and greetings to all parties that are in support of the Palestinian freedom and liberation that are gathered here, including the organizers of Africa, Palestine for Africa, who are also organizers of this big major event that is going to be taking place. We, as African National Congress, will want to really call on South Africans that on the 29th of May, vote for Palestinians as you vote and cast your votes, and push that vote to all the parties that have continuously supported the question of Palestine, and ANC being one of them, and others that have already spoken and are still going to be speaking. If you do so, you will be helping us to fast-track the liberation and the freedom of the Palestinians, for them to have their own country, their own government, and then also be freed from the apartheid Israel, which is currently killing and to create carnage, and which is really in clinics and people on the basis of their origin and their own nationality, which is not Israel. So we are definitely going to be part of the mobilization towards ensuring that on Workers' Day at Athlone, all our members are there in greater numbers to really begin to support this cause. But the vote matters most. Switch it from wherever you have been voting in the past. They've shown you that they don't care about the Palestinians. They've shown you that despite all the calls that has been made in Parliament and in the country, they continue not to be the voice of the Palestinians. So don't waste your vote on them, but vote for all the parties that are here and those that are supporting the cause of the Palestinians. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Obed Bakela. Thank you very much. And you know, to the ruling party, I just want to say that, like all South Africans and like the international community, we're grateful and we are inspired by what the government has done in relation to the Palestinian struggle. And the world, in many ways, admire what the government has done. But as South Africans, we want to remind you that given our own history, nothing that the government does will ever be enough. Okay, so I just want to say, with a gratitude on the one side and on the other side, yeah, we and all of us and our government, we need to do more. Anyway, thank you very much for being with us, Comrade Bapela. Next, and I think that's the last on the list. I also want to acknowledge the support that we've gotten. I just saw it online from the Colored People's Congress. It's one of the recently formed political parties. I want to acknowledge their support for the International Week for Palestine. The next entity, I see that they're leaving the room, is no, then we need you now. Okay, yes. The next party that we have speaking is the Young Communist League. Go for it, there we go. You look bewildered.
No, we align ourselves with the South African Communist Party.
Okay, no, fine. Oh, yes, okay. Sorry for that. I think, Comrade Zukiswa, if everybody has signed, okay. Perhaps we'll take a few questions if anybody from the media has, and then I will wrap up. Here we go. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Hi, from SABC News. I just wanted to get from the delegates, not what's currently happening in Gaza, in Nasser and Al-Shifa, the discovery of the mass graves. I just want to get your immediate reaction and what should be done in terms of making sure that there's a fair investigation to uncover really what's happened, especially in the context of South Africa's case before the ICJ, where also it was very clear instruction for Israel to prevent any genocidal act. Just a brief one. Your reaction as well, the UN Security Council, how you had the US vetoing the move of the Palestinians to have a full membership as opposed to an observer status, and how the UK also abstained. Just your reaction on that. Thank you.
Right. Let's see which party hands go up first. Okay, it is Hanif Hendricks from Al Jamaa, and it is Matthew from Good. Hanif and yes, and Matthew, and then the African Transformation Congress, ATM, sorry, movement. Yes, Hanif and yes. Sorry, Hanif Hendricks.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we should, arrest warrant should be issued. That is the starting point, because there's a prima facie case that Netanyahu and the generals of the IDF should obviously be named and arrest warrants issued, and vigorously they should be brought to justice. Thank you.
Yes.
I think the ICJ ruling was very, with the uncovering of graves and mass graves that we've seen, we have to stand together and continue to put pressure that the killing of women and children is not okay. The mass murder of killing of women and children is completely and utterly disgusting. And the apartheid Zionist government of Israel needs to adhere to what has been put before them, and they need to be held to book. This needs to be addressed immediately. Arrest warrants need to happen, and the international community has a duty to ensure that the genocide stops immediately. The killing of women and children is not self-defense.
Thank you very much. Then we have, sorry, wait, yes? No, yeah, ATM comes first. ATM, are you ready? Okay, sorry, then it is the National Freedom Party.
AM4C.
Sorry, AM4C.
AM4C, Allied Movement for Change. Well, just to, obviously answer some of your questions, and I know you raised the whole issue surrounding the ICJ and also with regards to mass graves. Now, we've seen that this war has taken many, many dimensions. I wouldn't call it a war, this genocide, actually. This attack on Palestine has taken many dimensions. One is truth. And truth has really suffered when one considers the number of journalists that have been killed already. So there has been this concerted effort to hide the truth. But in the days of social media, we've seen a lot come to the fore. We've seen South African submission, even at the ICJ, where many of the leadership within the settler colonial state and the Zionist entity, they have been exposed as well. So the more they try to hide, the more they are going to be exposed. And also at the same time, when we're talking about the ICJ in particular, one of the biggest concerns, and this is why I made mention earlier on, in terms of some of these institutions need to be reformed because they carry absolutely no weight. Because all the ICJ has done until now is listened, they've made a few recommendations, but the provisional measures that were announced, yes, Israel, go, you can feed them, give them medicine, but you can continue killing them. And this is exactly what has happened. And this is the reason why you need an enforcement mechanism. And this is the reason why I say is that the whole question of Palestine, even in the build-up to the elections, with regards to politicians, with regards to political parties as well, is not only a local issue. This is a matter of foreign policy that many political parties, like ourselves as well, need to think about.
Thank you very much. The African Transformation Movement, is that right? Thank you very much.
ATM is a peaceful movement. It's a peace party. And as such, we are vehemently against what is happening in Palestine. And as such, we believe that there should be consequences for what is currently happening there. That is crime against humanity. And the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, should be held accountable for that. There should be warrant of arrest that go out for him for crimes against humanity. Because it cannot be that innocent children, innocent people, unarmed civilians are killed by the government of Israel. It cannot be. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Your media house, please. Okay, Muhammad Chunara from INX Prime TV. Muhammad, yes, go ahead.
My question to Emir is, we've seen a lot of South Africans who are fighting for the IDF, representing the IDF, locally born South African Jews who are in the IDF. Amongst the parties here, we do know that ANC as well as the EFF have stable motions in Parliament. But what more can be done? Because we have seen very little being done in Parliament, and we just heard a lot of talk by a lot of politicians that when they come back, they will be arrested. But it also works on other countries where we've got South Africans fighting in other wars. How will the parties work to solving this issue, which is quite serious.
Okay, that was a question from INX, who raises the question of citizens from from South Africa fighting inside the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. And then the question is that he knows that the ANC and the EFF have taken positions on this, but is keen to know on what steps are taken to actually enact this policy. And yes, we have one response, and then is there anybody else who wants to respond? And then, sorry, a second response. Right. Again, just mention your parties, please, and then.
AM4C again. You raise a very, very important point with regard to prosecution. Now, it is clear that we have got legislation within this country that makes it illegal for South African citizens to serve in foreign militaries and as mercenaries as well. This is a problem that has come, or a light has been shed on this problem just very, very recently in the last few months since this genocide has started unfolding. But it has been a problem for many, many years. And we also like to obviously remind the ruling party, to also remind our National Prosecuting Authority that for 15 years, there are dockets that have been sitting with the NPA that haven't even been touched. They haven't even been investigated. So this is not something new. It is only because of the genocide that the focus is now on South African citizens that are serving within the IDF. But these dockets have been standing, and this is where the questions need to be directed to those that are responsible. Why have you not prosecuted these people? Thank you.
Just before we take the ATM, can we have Obed Bapela, who is online from the African National Congress?
No, thank you very much for the questions raised. Quite valid and very, very important. Let me start from the end. Obviously, on all those continuously to go out of South Africa with a dual citizenship to go to Israel and Kenya as IDF members. Some branding their faces, singing, pride upon Harvard, so that we could to gather evidence that could then to start arrest and hurt the the workers that were once approved 5 years ago. We will definitely make a follow-up as African government to find out whether any progress is being made along that particular area. But definitely, we cannot continuously see South Africans participating as IDF members, killing Palestinians, because that is not our policy. We support the question of Palestinians, we support the Palestinian freedom. The other one that we are speaking is really to declare that Benjamin Netanyahu is indeed a bully and aggressor and a killer. And the ICJ case was the first case on the issues of the genocide. And I know that the ICJ has reserved complete judgment on that element, but they are not willing to take evidence that we presented in other nations that have now added more of evidence to them to say this is a genocide. And once it's declared as genocide, Netanyahu and all the criminals in the IDF, Israel Defense Force, ought to be issued with warrant of arrest by the ICC, and the matters must then be escalated to the ICC. That is what we are working on, monitoring, by ensuring that that pressure continuously get mounted with the ICJ to conclude and indeed declare this environment as genocide. It will really go a long way on the ICC and to then take these matters for further investigation, prosecution, and indeed in this modern world where an aggressor is just being allowed to with the support of the budget and finances and resources from America, and then definitely there are countries in the case, particularly the president of USA to provide and all that of them. So we definitely have to take it to that highest level, and that is a program that we are definitely engaging on. And obviously the last one, the killing of journalists and also the oppression of the media, the escalated as one of the agenda items, because now we get at Al Jazeera, they've just passed a law in Israel that is going to be bringing them covering the activities of what the defense force of Israel is doing, the soldiers of Israel, but right, but we think we are still. And if such more other media houses get affected, then more will then be given. But let's also welcome the citizens of various countries whose governments are supporting Israel, however, the citizens are on the street marching and in solidarity campaigns, and we need to support them to intensify more, so that this voice is a global voice that must be stronger and emerging stronger until there's a solution to the Palestinian question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that we have two responses more, if you can kindly be brief. The ATM first. They will be for you.
Section 198B of our Constitution prohibits members of South Africans from engaging in wars that South Africa does not support. So it cannot be that we therefore allow South Africans to participate in that war. That's one. And for those that are already participating, there should be consequences. For those that are naturalized citizens, the government should ensure that it strips them of their rights to be South Africans, because they are fighting a war against our party, our people, because the Palestinian people are our people. That is why the former president of South Africa said, our freedom can never be complete when the Palestinian people are still oppressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Can I kindly remind whoever responds to please look at the cameras? You're not going to get to air, you know, by. It's nice. It's nice to be looked at, but it's not going to get you anywhere.
Thank you, sir. No, thank you. Just to respond to the question, the issue of South African citizens serving in the IDF is counter-revolutionary, considering the position that our country has taken to stand in solidarity with the Palestinians. And I think to a large extent, it should also be regarded as borderline treason, given that, you know, we have this high level of atrocities committed against the people, and then we still have part of our citizenry also being a part of that. That is something that no country would ever tolerate, and I agree with the ATM gentleman that there has to be consequences. So we will be watching this space very closely. In as far as what else can be, yes, there's lots more that can be done in as far as the government is concerned. It was a great step taking this matter to the ICJ, but we need to look at other avenues such as calling on countries which we share cordial bilateral agreements or arrangements with to consider economic sanctions, to see how we can sort of push the apartheid Israelite state in some kind of a corner or predicament, so that they can understand that we are all human. You are human just as much as I am human. Also, just to take a bite on the question that was mentioned with regards to the bodies that have been found. Right now, the most difficult thing is to gain access to the Gaza Strip. And stuff like that would require an investigation. There's also reporters that have been killed, UN staff or workers that has been killed. And these cases needs to be investigated. But without access, it makes it so very difficult. So this is intense, and it is intense up to the point where it is undermining international laws. Practically, one can even go as far as to say dismantling international laws, given that there is a ruling on made by the ICJ, but it is not carried out. And to add to that, then we have the superpowers like the US, bringing a veto against the Palestinians' full membership to the Security Council. I mean, what is it with the double standards? What is this talk that we represent a world peace, or we stand for world peace, yet we are vetoing a country that's supposed to be there because it is relative to what they are experiencing. So yes, I agree, more can be done. And we should also look at avenues as such as also looking at humanitarian aid for people in Gaza from a South African point of view, and also our partners within the SADC region. I think from the SADC region's perspective, there is definitely much more that can be called for in as far as the issue of the oppression of the Palestinians are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have to take, sorry, Comrade Reneva. Our next question comes from Salam Media, and you may want to, in your response, Reneva Fourie from the SACP, in your response, you may want to address the earlier point. And yes, Salam Media.
My name is Salah, and I'm with Salam Media. My question is a very short one. The upcoming elections are thought to be the one whose outcome will be defined by coalitions, and at the heart of coalitions is mostly parties like yourself. So how high does a party's stance on Palestine rank on whether or not you'll be willing to get in bed with a political party? And do you see that in any way affecting how you be part of the outcome, the general outcome of the elections?
Right, so there's a question about linking coalitions. That's a post-election or a post-election scenario, the question of coalitions and the possibility of that. And I will have Al-Jamaa and the SACP having a go at that.
Thank you very much, Hanif Hendricks. As you know, that Al-Jamaa is the expert in keeping a coalition together. We've kept the coalition in Johannesburg with the help of the ATM for 18 months. And if you look at other parties, he's talking about 3 months and 2 months. And I spoke to the treasurer of the ANC very recently and told them that you're going to serve your full term. So we're the experts when it comes to coalitions. When it comes to this elections, things will obviously change. And there's no way that political parties with a humanitarian focus would want to go into a coalition with a political party that is complicit in the genocide. We know that the DA has asked senators of America to intervene to ensure that the soldiers that we talked about earlier on are not arrested. And that is why it is necessary going forward from a humanitarian aspect to get America expelled from the United Nations in terms of Clause 6 of the Charter. Thank you very much.
I'm just wondering if the EFF is still with us. Ali, if you can change the screen and also just check with the EFF. If Comrade Nazir Polse is still with us, I would like you to have a go at the question, but for now, it is Renee Fourie from the South African Communist Party.
Thank you, Chair. As you know, the SACP is not contesting in the elections directly. We're contesting as part of the ANC, our governing alliance. So for us, of course, we would prefer not to have a coalition. We want to have an outright victory, and we want to appeal to the voters to give us another chance. We have demonstrated our commitment to pro-poor policies. We've demonstrated our commitment to a more just and equal world, and we fear that might change. And so, of course, from a principled position, the SACP will be opposed to the ANC forming any coalition with any party that is supporting the Israeli government. We've been very firm on it, and we shall continue to be so. The reason why I asked to speak, though, was on the issue of America, as asked by the SABC. They really are operating on double standards or speaking with forked tongues. On the one hand, they say that they're advocating a ceasefire, but they have consistently voted in the UN Security Council against a ceasefire. And then the last vote, they abstained. And then now they say that they're supporting a two-state solution, but here's the opportunity for Palestine to be recognized, and then they veto it. So the USA certainly can't be trusted. It is supporting the Israelis militarily, with intelligence, with boots on the ground. They were complicit in the shooting down of the missiles from Iran. So on the one hand, they say, no, we don't want war with Iran. And on the other hand, they are provoking it. So it really brings to question the morality of the US and countries like the UK. Thank you.
Yes, sorry, ATM, for keeping you waiting.
Ideally, as the ATM, we are not looking for coalition. The president of the ATM, Vuyelo Zungula, is crisscrossing the country to ensure outright majority win of the ATM in the upcoming elections. Should it happen, for whatever reason, should it happen that for whatever reason, the people do not give us the mandate, that is 50+1, to be the majority. Yes, of course, when you talk of coalition, we would go for the progressive forces, because the progressive forces are parties that are supporting the people, are parties that believe in the people. Now, that's what we'll do. That's number one. Number two, coalition should not only be based on that. It should also be based on what is it that the different parties will do for the people. Because ours is to ensure that there is a better tomorrow for our people, that our today cannot be the same as our tomorrow. I thank you.
Are there any last? Okay, right. If not, that was just an arm going up, not a hand. If not, I will just make a very brief kind of concluding comments, and then we are free to talk to any of the spokespersons that are present. You know, I wasn't a victim, nor a child, nor a grandchild of the Nazi Holocaust. And so I can't prescribe to them how far they must go in prosecuting some of the criminals who are still alive. But I do want to point out, you know, when it comes to white lives, such as German and European lives, then you can prosecute the perpetrators, some of them 92, 93 years old, and they're still being hunted down and they're still being brought to court for their crimes against the victims, including largely the Jewish victims of the Holocaust. But when it comes to Black lives, then you can't say Black lives matter, because no, all lives matter. And hidden unto this idea of theirs of all lives matter, it's actually white lives matter. This is what they want to say. When you say, no, you can't say, you know, fight abuse against women. You can't say that. Fight abuse against men and women. That's bull. Because yes, men are also abused. But the truth is that the overwhelming gendered abuse that occurs, it's against women. And so when you are asked, you know, hey, do you identify, are you in solidarity with the Palestinians? No, no, no. What about the Israelis? What about the Israeli hostages? It doesn't work like when you say, I identify with black people who are suffering throughout the world. Are you anti-white? No. Why do I have to keep on saying I'm not anti-white, I'm not anti-white? Huh? Why? There's something wrong in your logic. When you keep on insisting that I have to say, no, no, no. For how long must I pander to white sensitivities? For how long must we pander to the sensitivities of the global north? So that is an important thing to also link, the Palestinian struggle to the larger internationalist movement, the struggles of the Cuban people, the struggles of the people of the Sahrawi Republic, the peoples of the peoples of the country of Kashmir under increasing Indian hegemony. So while we're focusing on the Palestinian struggle, and there's nothing wrong with this, many countries abroad in the 70s, particularly in the 70s and the 80s, they identified with South Africa. And as Desmond Tutu said, the litmus test of being a human being in our day and age is where do you stand in relation to the question of apartheid. And so the litmus test on whether we are human today, it is where do you stand in relation to the struggle of the Palestinians for freedom and dignity. So with that, we thank the political party representatives who have made themselves available for our press briefing today. Keep an eye open, please, on the upcoming events. And above all, to the media who were present, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks, people. Feel free to hang around and to interview any of the other. Zukiswa, do you have an announcement or two?
I just wanted to ask all the representatives who signed if they could just come here for a photo opportunity with Professor Isaacs and whoever else is on the board of Africa for Palestine.
Sorry?